Okay, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Terry Wolf, and I'm a volunteer at Sister Bay Historical Society. So on behalf of the board of the Sister Bay Historical Society, welcome to the third of our 5 Sister Bay Stories presentations. So some of you have seen the first 2. One was on the Door County Medical Center. Last month we had Dick Burris and Friends doing a presentation. Tonight we'll have a great presentation about Rudy's Bakery and Grill. And then in September, we will have a presentation on the Sister Bay Bowl. And in October, our final presentation will be on firefighting in Northern Door County. So we hope you can come back and see us again for those other programs. So with that, let me move to tonight's program. So our speaker, Paul Bokelmann, or Bokelmann if we're using the German pronunciation, to talk about his parents' endeavors with Rudy's Bakery and Grill. So I'm just going to have to put a disclaimer out. When my wife and I started coming up here in 1980, we had already missed a good portion of what had happened there relative to Rudy's. But we know from the stories we've heard from you and others what a popular place that was. So it's going to be fun tonight to listen to the story of how Paul's parents, Rudy and Betty, came up from Chicago, had this little bakery operation in a little house next to the Hotel du Nord, and then moved on to the place where JJ's formerly was, and for 26 years had that place, became famous for their bakery products, for their freshly baked bread and pastries and pies and donuts, and as I read it in here, the bottomless 10-cent cup of coffee. So it was not only the bakery, but it was the grill, and I'm just going to add one other note here. I was looking at some information about the grill, and I was looking at some notes that were written by our late Vice President, John Fletcher, who said, you remember the grill so well, it was a place where he said the Fonz would have been happy to hang out. So that probably says it all. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Paul. Welcome to Paul, and thank you for doing the program.
Good evening, everybody. I think I know maybe more than half of the people in the audience today. So I don't have to tell you my name is Paul Bokelmann. And I say Bokelmann because when I was in Germany, I met some of my relatives and they pronounced it Bokelmann. And I had to tell my sister that because she always was telling everybody that it was Bokelmann. And so either way, it works, but there's no C in there. It's not B-O-C-K. Anyway, I'd like to thank the Sister Bay Historical Society for inviting me. And I'd like to know who in here has been at the bakery or restaurant as a customer. Who has worked at the bakery or grill? Okay. What have we got? 7? Okay. So, let me get acclimated here. Since this is a historical society, we'll start out with some serious history. Who the heck? Do you imagine that? Well, anyway, this history goes back to 1858. When Heinrich Bokelmann was born in Barnstorf, Germany. In the front row is Fritz Bokelmann from left to right, Rosine, Heinrich Friedrich, Christina Hermann's wife. In the back row are Minna, Fritz's wife, another Heinrich, Elsie, Karl's wife, Karl and Hermann Bokelmann. It's quite a group. So back in 1885, Heinrich opened a business, and it was a bakery and a candy store. And what the situation was in Germany at that time, the eldest son received the entire inheritance from his parents. So with that money, he bought a bakery. So this is the original building in or around 1915. The Bokelmann name is on the building. And here's just a slight portion of the Bokelmann family tree. And so this gentleman here, Frederick, is still living, but he's retired. And I'll talk about him in a little bit. And his dad, and his dad, and his dad, all were bakers. Unfortunately, in the church, at one point prior to 1858, the church had a fire, and it ruined all chance of learning more about the Bokelmanns prior to that. Heinrich's son Fritz runs the bakery in 1925. There again is the Bokelmann name. Here's Fritz. I never met these people, so. Fritz's son Karl Heinz runs the bakery in 1955. And I was at his doorstep in Barnsdorf, Germany, knocking on his door, and I knocked and knocked and knocked, and nobody answered. Found out that he was doing what Germans do, is they go on a month-long vacation. And he was on vacation at the time, or a holiday. But he ran it, and he ran it when it was in here. In 1995, I took this photo before I even knew there was any Bokelmanns related to be there. I met a young lady named Andrea Bokelmann and her boyfriend Udo. It turned out she was the daughter of Frederick Bokelmann and my second cousin twice removed. Inside they displayed the master baker certificates that were issued to master bakers. One was for Fritz and one was for Karl Heinz. So this is what they had in the store window that day. And as you can read there, Friedrich eventually ran the business, but decided he wanted to retire too. He was running both the bakery in Barnsdorf and one in Edelstedt, which is nearby, but he was retiring too. So when he retired, the Bokelmann family gave the building back to the city of Barnsdorf, and it got torn out. Now Friedrich was also a master marzipaneer. Marzipan is a type of a candy. It's made with sugar, honey, and almond meal. And I have an article that was written about Frederick on the table over there. If you want to take a read, you can read it in many different languages. They like to include all the different languages when they publish something. So Fritz Hermann's father, Heinrich Friedrich, had a brother 23 years younger than himself. And that would be this gentleman here. His name is Johann Wilhelm Bokelmann. He was a baker. So this is my grandfather. I never met him because he passed away before I was born. Now he married Martha Anna Schiemann. How would you say that in German? Schiemann? So, just a little background on Martha. Martha was born in Tilsit, East Prussia in the German Empire in 1880. Today, Tilsit is now Sovetsk Kaliningrad Oblast, a part of the Russian Federation. Johann was born in Barnsdorf, which is in Lower Saxony, Germany, in 1881. I'd be curious to know how they met each other because these two places are this far away from each other. This being Germany, this being Poland, this being the Russian Federation, well, today, and this is Lithuania. So that's about 570 miles as the crow flies, which is about the same distance it is from here to St. Louis. Martha and Wilhelm, or Johann, you know, a lot of these names are interchangeable because people don't say Johann for John anymore. They don't say Wilhelm for William anymore. So, but anyway, the two had Willie in Germany, and Willie was 2 years old at the time they came over on the SS Maine in 1908. And Willie also became a baker. This is their ship. It's definitely not the Titanic. It was launched in 1900. It was 501 feet long. As the Allies seized it after World War I in 1914. The trip is about 4,500 miles. I wonder how long that took. History buffs in my family say that Johann owned a bakery in Chicago, but I haven't been able to identify which ones. My parents had photos of bakeries, besides pictures of themselves and kids. So the assumption is that somebody must have worked there from the family. Wasn't documented very well. This one happens to be mother and son bakery. That's the kind of cars they drove back then. So, left to right, here's my Rudy's siblings, Otto, Frida, Wilma, and Rudy. And Willie's not there. Willie, I think, left to find his fortune in California. He eventually came back. Otto left Chicago to work in Las Vegas, Nevada, where he lived until he passed away. And we really never saw much of Willie after he went to Las Vegas. But he was a baker. So here's kind of a bunch of bakers. This is Heinrich Friedrich, the beginning of it. Here's one of his sons, Heinrich. And here's Fritz, one of his sons. And Karl Heinz is one of Fritz's sons. And Frederick is Karl Heinz's son. And here's Johann Wilhelm. Here's my Uncle Otto. I'm sorry, my Uncle Willie. And this is Uncle Otto. Here's Rudy. And here's Carl, my brother. So, here are my parents, Rudy and Betty. My mom arrived in Ellis Island when she was 2 months old with her mother and father. Her side of the family is another story entirely. Chicago is the north side for people who hail from Illinois. There's Wrigley Field. And these house symbols are places where my family had lived, taken from the census data at the time. And here's, I'll be talking about that thing in the middle there shortly. But Johann Wilhelm is buried at this cemetery.
Fundas Cemetery. I'd have to look that up again. And some of you might remember Dingle's Bakery.
Sure.
This is a picture that was in our album. I can only assume that my folks, whether it was Johan or Rudy or somebody must have worked there at one point in time or another. And this is what it looked like recently using Google. But I found out that after 101 years, they closed in April of 2022. Here's my mom and her half-sister, Hedwig. Here's a couple of other bakeries, Fugies and Cransible's. Anybody know where they were?
What was the first one?
Fugies. Fudges.
I don't know it.
I'd love to know where they are. And here's my mother again at the counter at one of those places. So, fast forward, after growing up in the 20s and 30s, Betty and Rudy met, and the rest is history. They were married in 1941. The story was that Betty's father, my grandfather, owned a multi-story building on Fletcher Street, and eventually my mom and dad lived in one of the upper flats. In 43, my Eileen, my sister, was born, and Eileen is the one who wrote a nice piece in the Centennial magazine that was held up earlier. She did an excellent job of describing it. Kind of jealous that I can't write as good as she can. She passed away in November of 2021. During World War II, Rudy served in the Army Air Force. You say, what's an Army Air Force? Well, there was an Army Air Corps Air Force, and they had a field in Amarillo, Texas. And during the war, they trained Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress mechanics. And my dad he was a baker for Uncle Sam, but they had to let him out in 46. So what does this have to do with Sister Bake? After the war, Rudy got out. My sister says that Betty's sister Marion had suggested they go to Egg Harbor because they heard that the Alpine Lodge had an opening for a baker. And so Mom and Dad wanted to have a little vacation before they got serious about settling down, so they came up, and wouldn't you know, the Alpine job had already been taken. But they heard about a couple of ladies in Sister Bay who were, according to Eileen, said they were baking on the back porch and selling their wares on the front porch. And that business was good and they needed help. Now, somebody told me who those two ladies were.
It was my grandmother, Florence Nelson.
Florence Nelson?
Yes, and Marie Barker.
Marie Barker.
The two of them were the
They were
bakers.
the two bakers working at the table with them. And this is my little sister right here, under the Tanglewood Bakery sign. That was just south of where the curve starts to go up towards the ice cream factory.
My grandmother, they could make 100 pies, cherry pies a day.
At Tanglewood.
At Tanglewood, yes. And so your father came and knocked on the door and said, "Do you need a baker?" And they said, yes, they did. They sold to Al Johnson's Swedish restaurant when they first opened.
Yeah. So here's, as time went by, I was born, obviously, and my brother Carl was born, and we all had our hats. So the next slide is going to be, oh, I'm sorry, in '52, my dad purchased the building, which was going to be Rudy's Bake Shop and Grill. And there's a video coming up that pay attention to the window of the bakery. I don't have any music.
That must be you.
Very well could be. So getting off the bus probably is the Nelson girls that lived across the street, Sally, Laverne, and Susie. Susie? And it could be also getting on and off the bus is the Anderson family kids. Roger, Bob, Carol, yeah, and then me and my sister.
Where did you go to school?
Wildwood. I got so excited. It must have been an Isaacson bus, right? Yeah. So this is the north side of the restaurant, for the grill. And here's, not so much for the car, but for the scenery that existed there, right next to the bake shop and grill. And now, what does that say? Whoops, I gotta get you a little, what is your, what does that say? Tanglewood. This is something I didn't know about until I digitized the 8mm movies, but it's quite a surprise. Now let me not.
What does it say?
Tanglewood. My guess is that for a brief period of time, the Tanglewood equipment or whatever went to the bakery, and they put Tanglewood on the window for a time, and eventually it turned into Rudy's Bake Shop. Right. Right. I thought that was mentioned on the, it was on the property of Du Norge. Wasn't it on the north side of the?
Paul, it was between Liberty Park and Hotel Du Norge on the east side of the highway.
Right.
And it had originally been a private home owned by my grandparents, and then I think became the bake shop.
Okay.
And then after you, the Ostrands had the place, and then eventually my brother bought it, Kai's bought it back and made a gift shop out of it.
Okay.
That's the history.
I found a photo of Tanglewood being torn down. I didn't want to put it in here. This is the restaurant part. It was not, it was just a narrow coffee shop. This is my sister Eileen. Nice view. There's my mom and my sister. Edna Anderson.
So Paul, who would have been taking these videos?
Either my mom or my dad.
Okay.
8 millimeter. I wanted to come here with that hat. Yeah. I couldn't find any. So we apparently are getting ready for a parade.
Oh my.
There's a lot of festivities up here, as you know. And I'm just hoping I don't drop that on this. So Dad had a lot of business on Washington Island, so he had this truck where he delivered a lot of bread up to the island. This is inside the grill. Here's where I'm having a birthday, and here's my harem.
Oh.
I think that's Bonnie.
Did you save that? The jukebox? Any of the records, did you save it?
I have a lot of 45s, but I don't have a jukebox.
Okay, you got the 45.
Bottomless cup of coffee, Plex ice cream. Here's the malt machines, shake machines.
Wow.
That's where they got the idea of concrete mixers at Culver's or Blizzard's at Dairy Queen. I don't know if Judy was there.
Yeah.
Those two spigots, one was for water and one was for phosphate, where it would come out in a real small stream and create all the fuzz and foam and fizz. It was just I didn't cut any of this out because it was, I don't know, maybe it's interesting, maybe it isn't.
Oh, it's fabulous.
That's it. I think that says happy birthday, Betty.
I remember the screen. Yeah. Around the
$1.25.
Now you can't get a piece for $1.25.
What time did they get up in the morning to start cooking?
I think my dad, well, not cooking, but the bakery. My dad got up at 3 o'clock, I think.
3 o'clock.
Does anybody remember that gentleman? I'm sorry, I didn't stop in time. I don't want to mess it up by doing that. These are photos taken by Hagedorn Studios, and the originals are on the table. And I also have a paper copy of the same photo where you can write somebody's name on there if you happen to recognize them. That would be kind of cool. So Rudy also helped organize the soapbox derby when it was first came out for Fall Festival. I think my dad built the ramp, yes. And first, before I show you the ramp, does anybody recognize these kids? They're probably too small to see from back there. So here are the ramps. And there's my dad. I'm not sure who this is, the gentleman behind my dad. And then they're racing down the road. Sister Babel's in the back. Who owns the residence is right there. So here's my mom and my sister, and here's a tray of cookies, and I'm not sure who the baby is. It might be my brother Carl. So the boxes that made for delivering bread to Washington Island and also used as cribs. And so there's one of the boxes still survived, and it's over near the table. So I think we covered a little bit about the tangle with entanglement here, which is good information that I hadn't known before. But, as you can see, the building is a little in rough shape. Could use some paint, gravel parking lot. And so in 1953, my dad wanted to modernize. Before we get to the modernization, here's a few of the employees. We have Ted Sake, I believe. This is Judy Tesno. And this is anyone?
Is that Marianne Charney? Is it Marianne Charney Gold?
Could be, yeah. I'm not 100% sure.
I think that's Marianne.
Marianne Charney. Okay. And this is,
She had glasses.
pardon?
She had glasses.
And this is me and my sister.
Wow.
So in '54, Dad wanted to expand the dining area. So this is what it looked like during the process. This is the famous front of the building where Rudy's Grill sign would end up. So, turns out, my dad, according to my brother Carl, he actually made these booths. He made the counters and so on and so forth. And as we can see here, he's laying the stonework that was in the front of the building. And I can hear my dad say, "Honey, come here once. Hand me that square rock." "No, not that one, that one." And so, miss those days. Here's the glass blocks, used to be there. Somebody can sing if they want. So it ended up being, this is the finished product, I guess, and the neon signs in the front and the vestibule right here. The picture windows across the side here that face the bay. Not bad for a baker.
Not bad.
take a trip down Parade Memory Lane.
I wouldn't trust it to two kids,
And all the kids coming up try to take some frosting off.
So what is it?
Oh, too cute.
Doesn't exist anymore.
Any churches?
Yeah. A reminder. It's gotta be a good Thursday. Today when you go to a fall festival parade, you can hardly see the people in the parade because the crowd is all the way halfway into the street. Good looking cars back then. Here's my dad and his brother Willie, the one that moved to California, loading up a bread slicer and wrapper that he bought from somebody in Tomahawk, Wisconsin. Brought it back to wrap his bread. And here is a float for another parade, different year, however. There's my sister Eileen, this gentleman I don't know, and that's me as Cupid.
The earth was so cold that you turned blue.
Yeah, well, if I'm Cupid. So here we have some, we have, I think that's my mom, they say a handicap. This is Kathy, Faye, Elquist. And I'm building some pizzas for the restaurant. And my sister, in her writings, mentioned that growing up in a bakery in a restaurant, particularly Rudy's Grill, is like Happy Days.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it was. Jukebox, Fond wasn't there, but I'm sure there was somebody similar. And everybody would go there after basketball games, football games, or whatever. I think my dad treated everybody of the winning team with something. I don't know if it was a soda or a hamburger or whatever it was. Anybody remember that? This is, oops, I got this is Juanita. She's one of my cousins. It's my sister Eileen. And somebody here is going to remember who this is, because I don't. Nobody? Here's Judy Tesno again. Look at all the big things. Faye Elquist, she was a fun person to have around in this space.
Judy actually has a menu from the time she worked. Oh, here.
You like this one?
There you go.
Can you read the numbers? Hamburger, fries, and a chocolate shake, 90 cents. 2 eggs, bacon, toast, and coffee, 95 cents.
We added all of the dinner, and it was about that big, I think. It had steak on it, and the total of the prices came to $14.95. If you ate
Oh, yeah?
I like the phone number.
Yeah, it was very simple to remember, right? So during the intermission at the Skyway Drive-In, moviegoers would be reminded to come to Rudy's. They would count down, you know the routine, they count down how many minutes till the intermission is over. And so this would be up there. This is my granddaughter standing next to the speaker rack.
Which one?
Abby. So some more pictures. This was in the cake was in the parade. Here's my dad making apple turnovers, and here's Karen and making cookies. Here is my mother making, decorated cakes. She had a big order of square cakes. Must have been a party or something. Here's a tray of donuts. And there's the never-ending cherry pie.
Man, it goes on forever.
And this is Sandra.
Where?
Right here. Oh, I'm sorry. I gotta have the part of the bread making or bread slicing machine that my dad had a conveyor belt on it that had conveyor belts on the sides so that they would pull the bread down into the slicer or the wrapper. Well, you didn't need the wrapper anymore because the wrapper was wax paper wrappers. And so, since he didn't need that, what he did is he laid this conveyor sideways, and there's a conveyor belt going vertically around this way, and a stationary belt here. He put a cherry pie that's ready to get the edges trimmed off. He put it on the conveyor, and the conveyor belt would cause it to rotate as it went from one end to the other. And it took off the excess pie. I don't know how many times he did this, but my dad made a humongous French bread, as big as the oven could handle. And during Fall Festival, the people would try to guess how much it weighed, and if they guessed the closest, they would win something, maybe a piece of bread. I don't know. Here's my mother, and here's my dad back by the oven, and this is Esther Ostrand. I guess we're jumping ahead on time here a little bit, but this is my mom. This is Beverly Pluff, and I think this is Vicki Collins. This gentleman here is Gus Clinky. I don't know how many people knew Gus, but he would come into the grill every day almost at the same time and have his cup of coffee and roll or whatever it was, and you could set your clock with Gus. We have a Jim Dahlstrom here, a friend of mine. And here's my brother Carl and my dad were smashing hamburger to make patties for the hamburgers. Here is the float, if you want to call it a float. inside the float are my sister's boys. Looks like they're trying to hide. But, Ted Sig was the night manager for a while, and so he's flipping burgers there. And Dad would have a party once in a while, either at the end of the summer or whatever, to celebrate a good season. And so these are some of the workers that were at the party. And here we have Faye Elquist, Larry Dahlstrom, Kathy Lyndon Ray, and this is, pardon? Yes, that is Lois Ackerman. I don't know why she's hiding. Maybe she was trying to get, they were trying to put her face in the pie. I don't know. Or the cake. So, my dad eventually opened up a bake shop in the Chris Bradell store in downtown Sister Bay, across the beach, from the beach. And the building that the bakery was in is actually a former Quentin Lundquist hardware store. That's where he had his hardware store and a laundromat just to the left of the main store. My brother describes how they opened up the bakery and then decided, well, why don't we put up a self-serve coffee machine and some tables and chairs, and people could come in and enjoy their sweet roll or their cherry Danish or whatever, and sit and enjoy that for that brief period. This is what the bakery storefront looked like at the time. But my dad was getting tired of all the paperwork, so he wanted to do less of that, and in so doing, he sold the business to Clinton and Barbara Fogel, but he stayed on to do the baking. So it's my understanding that the Fogels owned the bakery in that location for the period of time that it was there. So something happened, and I don't know the dates exactly, but the Christ store was closing because they had built a new store down where Shopko used to be. And so they didn't need the building anymore. And so my dad moved the Fogels moved the bakery to the former Pichet's restaurant. And if you don't know what the Pichet's restaurant, it's the Boathouse. Before Canavy's, yes, before Canavy's. Canavy's had it for 17 years. And there's a little story about how do you move an oven from one part of town to the other. Very carefully, but you ask your friends over at Anchor Sam's Marina and see if they bring their boat lift over and move the oven from one place to the other. So, like I said, Canavy ran the business for approximately 17 years, from 77 to 93. And the sad part is my dad had cancer come back. So Rudy's son, Carl, eventually became a full-time baker at the Door County Bakery. Carl's daughter, Danielle, is a graduate of the Cordon Bleu Culinary Arts School. Rudy's granddaughter and my daughter, Angela, worked at a Cookies by Design in Waukesha as a cookie decorator. And Rudy's great-granddaughter, Angela's daughter, Olivia, is currently a professional baker at Deerfields Bakery in Buffalo Grove, Illinois. So, look at the photographs on the table over on the side. Make any notations you want on the paper photos, not the originals. And take a look at the box and the table scraper that's there. And are there any questions?
Was there a business, well, where the waterfront is now, was there always a business there next to Rudy's?
The business, there was a business just south where the waterfront is now. That used to be a butcher shop, and it used to be an appliance store, and could have been something else in there too, but. Pardon?
Western wear.
Okay. Yeah, but John, yeah, I think what happened also is that once JJ owned the restaurant, he had a t-shirt shop in the butcher store, and the house next to that, to the south of that, which I think it was attached, I don't know for sure, but that's where the Johnsons lived for quite a while. I think they built something somewhere else later on. Yes?
Well, I just want to say thank you for this in memory lane. And anyone who grew up in Door County, or northern Door County, Sister Bay area, but all the little towns. In the 50s and the 60s, your entire teen life, social life was defined by going to Rudy's after games. You started when you were 13, 14, 10 cents for a Coke, 15 cents for French fries, 5 plays on the jukebox, 25 cents. And we kept taking turns. And Rudy let us sit there all night long and barely spent $1. But you dressed up, you were there to be seen and see and meet the boys or the girls, depending on. And later, as you grew older, it was a date night place. But that's where you tried to be, to see everybody, because there wasn't social media, there wasn't, I mean, we were lucky when we got telephones. So, I mean, Rudy's was one of the, if I had to name 5 of the defining places of my childhood and teen years, it was Rudy's, and it was the grill part. I hardly paid attention to the bakery. I know my mom was there, but it was the grill part that, and those moves, it's right out of Happy Days, truly. Thank you.
Your mom and dad, I think, for a lot of kids in their teen years, staying out of trouble because they had a place to go. And your mom and dad never got rich off this, but what they did for the community, a lot of parents will never know. And a big thank you. Okay.
Started the fish bowl as a business in about 1962. I think the first year my mother tried to make all the cherry pies, but it was just impossible. So from then on, from about 1962 until 1974, when they sold the restaurant, the pies all came from Rudy's. So I stopped that.
I delivered a lot of those. I also delivered sweet rolls to Al Johnson's every morning.
many days a week and what hours were your parents running the place? Was it all day, every day, weekends?
It was pretty much all the time.
Yes.
There was a time when, well, my dad went in at 3 o'clock in the morning to start
Yeah.
the baking.
Process of baking.
And then the restaurant opened for breakfast at some civil hour. And they were open, you know, for a long time in the evening. Maybe not the bakery half, but the dining half.
Wow.
There were periods of time, well, you know, nowadays, a lot of business closed, and they go to Florida or wherever for the winter. And my dad was doing that a little bit for a while, and he had my So, my folks went to Florida, and I went to school in Florida for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. And my sister Eileen went to all 4 years of high school down in Florida. But we came back in the summertime, and I tell you, I'd rather be up here than in Florida.
Oh, yes.
Thank you very much for attending. Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.